Kenny Dillingham, man. What more can you say? I have a hard time seeing him not be named National Coach of the Year.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another reaction episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view, mid or even post, just barely, Arizona State thrashing Iowa State. Plenty of thoughts coming up. This is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, where you can get a big return. New customers can place a $5 bet. You'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I'm recording this show before the Arizona State game is over. You know why? Because it is over. It's 45-10 late in the third quarter. Cam Skattebo has 800 yards rushing on the ground. Not actually, but he's at 170 with a couple of touchdowns to boot. Iowa State can't stop a nosebleed running the football. Plus, I have thoughts on Boise State, and I have thoughts on Bill Bellichick to North Carolina coming up on today's pod. But I mean, you talk about improbable. Nothing has been as improbable as Indiana, except for Arizona State. They are walking into the Big 12, and they are going from picked worst to finishing first. You didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming. Fans in Tempe didn't even see it coming. My guy Richie Bradshaw, Locked On Sun Devils, he didn't see this coming, and I thought Iowa State would win the football game. I thought the Jordan Tyson injury was going to be detrimental to Arizona State's ability to create explosive plays. Nope. Skattebo's averaging 10.5 yards a carry. Again, the game isn't over. There's still more to come. And this game is every bit as much of the blowout as the Mack championship game where Ohio was throttling Miami of Ohio. But this is what it looks like. This is what Sam Leavitt, oh man, he's having the game of his life. Shout out Westland High School in Oregon. That's my neck of the woods. Not Westland specifically, of course. I could never. But I am incredibly impressed with Sam Leavitt. And this is one of the hottest teams in all of college football right now. They look like an unstoppable force. If you can't take away Cam Skattebo, that offense is wide open. And they didn't have their leading receiver, no drop-off. No drop-off whatsoever. That was foundational to my reason and many other people's reasons for picking Iowa State to win the football game. They're not close. They're not close. Yes, there have been turnovers in this game. Guess what? If you take away those turnovers, I still don't think Iowa State is hanging around in this football game, because this is a throttling. This is a thrashing. This is a beatdown. It doesn't matter how many other opportunities Iowa State could have to move the ball on offense. They have no answer for Cam Skattebo. And I've talked on the show about how that was a weakness for the Sun Devils coming into this game, or for the Cyclones rather, coming into this game. But I thought, hey, let Cam Skattebo get his yardage and take away the passing tag and be better at the quarterback spot. It's just not happening. It's just not happening. It doesn't matter. Sam Leavitt is in an absolute groove. Kenny Dillingham and offense coordinator Marcus Arroyo are doing a masterful job. They are calling the right plays at the right time. Their defense are making plays left, right, and center. It just doesn't matter what Iowa State was going to come into with this game. After coming into it, I think Iowa State finds a way to win. But lo and behold, Arizona State is going to emerge as the Big 12 champion. They're going to make the college football playoff. And yes, they should absolutely be getting a bye. They're not going to, but they should. I think what Boise State, who I'm going to talk about in the second segment, has had a heck of a season. They deserve to be in a 12-team playoff. No questions about that. But Boise State has not played a schedule as hard as anybody in the Big 12, because they play in the Mountain West. And Arizona State came down the stretch, and they already had a successful year. Like there was a house money component to this end of the season for Arizona State. They were sitting there at 7-2, and you thought, well, this is great. They're going to a bowl game. That was their goal before the year. That was a goal that I had for them that many others, like my guy Richie Bradshaw over at Locked On Sun Devils, had. Like he laid out like a path to the bowl game, and I could have seen it. And making a bowl game would have been a successful season. This is an Indiana-level surprise. That's how you need to think about it. However surprised you were that Indiana wound up at 11-1, that's how surprised you should be at Arizona State. They're not supposed to be in this position. A season in which they're coming off sanctions with bowl games and negative cloud with the program, and it hasn't been good in its consecutive 3-9 seasons. They're going to end the regular season 11-2 on an absolute heater. And let me get to this next point because it's an important one. Cameron Skattebo should be in New York City for the Heisman Trophy ceremony, without question. He is the engine that makes this offense go. He pulls off runs that resemble that guy in Boise who is going to be a Heisman finalist. He came into this game with almost 1,400 yards. He's got 170 and a couple touchdowns. And again, it's still late in the third quarter as I'm recording this show, but I can confidently do this because the game is over. It is done. Finite. End of discussion. Arizona State's just steamrolling. Just absolutely, positively steamrolling. And I mean, Skattebo, who Nick Saban recently said is his favorite player, apparently that was a blessing. You get a comment like that from the GOAT, and what do you know? You start playing your best football, and Cam Skattebo's in that zone. Shout out the Arizona State offensive line. But this is one of the stories of the year in college football. And if you gave me a vote on Coach of the Year, I don't have one, but if I did, Curt Cignetti would be up there. Kenny Dillingham would be up there. I might have to flip a coin between those guys because what Cignetti has done is incredible, and I don't want that to get overshadowed. Indiana had never won 10 games in a football season, and he wins his first 10 games in a row. That doesn't just happen. Arizona State had never won a conference championship game before, and that's just happening. I don't know how you distinguish. Frankly, they should be the co-coaches of the year, and I don't even know who's next. Who has done a coaching job that is as remarkable and unexpected and overperforming as those two individuals? You let me know. I think Rhett Lashley at SMU's done a heck of a job, had a way bigger expectation. They won a conference championship game last year in the American. I think Jeff Monken at Army could deserve consideration, but he's had more success in the past. He's had double-digit win seasons before. We've never seen that at Indiana. We haven't seen it at Arizona State in a long time. This is Dillingham's second year, and this guy loves that school so much. He is so easy to like. He has got to be one of the most likable coaches in all of college football. The passion he plays with, he loves that plays, and he's darn good. He's got a great staff who they locked up with extensions, and that's an important thing right now. Because the coaching carousel, it's revolving, it's swirling, it's going around, and you're going to see coordinators get poached left, right, and center. But I don't think Arizona State's guys are going anywhere because they assured you want to be here. And guess what? Arizona State, this feels so sustainable. Year two, they didn't bring in some highly coveted transfer class. They brought in some good players, to be sure. But they haven't started recruiting to their full potential yet. What happens when they do? You look at a team that's a perennial conference championship contender in the Big 12. That is what Kenny Dillingham's doing, and it's awesome. Awesome to see. Happy for the Sun Devils fans. They absolutely deserve it. They've been through the ringer the last couple of years, and they're going through a high rise right now. Let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments or hit me up on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @McLaughlin CFB or at @LockedOn_CFB. DMs and mentions, both wide open. So, Boise State breaks through against UNLV. Thoughts on where they're going to fall in the playoff? Is Ashton Jeanty now worthy of winning the Heisman? That's coming up next. First, a reminder, this episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals or run through a pouring rainstorm to get one. But Mint Mobile is making it easy to get $15 a month for your wireless with the purchase of a 3-month plan. And guess what? It's that easy for you as well. To get started, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. There you'll see that right now, all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. Remember that time then when data companies wanted to get rid of unlimited plans? Yeah, Mint Mobile is not about that. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. That's mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Check them out today at mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. I thought they would win. I thought they would cover. I did not think Ashton Jeanty would go for 209 yards in this game against UNLV. 21-7 the final. The Broncos defense stiffens. Remember what I talked about on Friday? On Friday, Thursday, they all blend together at this point. When I looked at this matchup coming into the week, my number one pivot point was which quarterback is going to be more efficient in the game. Whoever is going to win the football game. Maddox Madsen, 18 of 27 passing, a touchdown, no picks. Hodge Malik Williams, 13 of 28 passing, 110 yards and an interception. So that's the first thing that made me realize, yeah, Maddox Madsen is looking a little bit better, and the Boise State defense is kind of nasty. This was a football game that was a tale of two halves. Boise State dominated in the first. UNLV won the second, got down inside the goal line, could not come away with points in a key situation. But that's what I like about Boise State and why I like them in this game. They are a more complete football team than you give them credit for. You think about Ashton Jeanty and the fact that he's going to be a Heisman finalist, which he will be and should be. And I'll talk about whether he should be a winner in just a moment. But Maddox Madsen is a highly effective and efficient. He's not explosive. He's not overly dynamic, but he can run a little bit. He can throw a little bit, and that's all they need. And the defense gets after you. So this Boise State team, they're gonna get a bye. Will Ashton Jeanty end up getting the Heisman Trophy? Likely not. Likely not. The odds, according to our friends at FanDuel, have got Travis Hunter at minus 2,500, not minus 250, minus 2,500 to win the Heisman Trophy, even after Jeanty's big day on a big stage. And Jason Benetti and Brock Heward, the announcers, were lining it up before the game, and they were correct in saying that was the biggest game in the history of Boise State football. You now have a legitimate chance for the first time to play for a national championship. You're going to be in the playoff. You're going to get the bye. I mean, should Arizona State jump them after this performance? I'd argue yes, and based on the entire season. But I don't think that's likely to happen. UNLV, top 25 team, deservedly so. You're not going to get punished for a 14-point win, even though it's on your home field. And Arizona State comes into this game ranked at 15. I don't think they get jumped. I really don't. The question is whether Ashton Jeanty makes that jump to the Heisman Trophy. He probably doesn't. I've said before, he'd have my vote. I do not begrudge those who vote for Travis Hunter in Colorado. This can be a very spirited debate, depending on who you ask. Well, Travis Hunter's doing that. Well, Travis Hunter, it's just snap. It's not just snap count, guys. It's about far more than just that. He's the most dynamic and consistently productive two-way player that we've probably ever seen in college football. He's not the only two-way player we've ever seen, but he's definitely the best and most impactful one. Where my vote would come down to if I had one for the Heisman Trophy is which team needs that guy more? And when I watch these two teams play, Shedeur Sanders is the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, not Travis Hunter. So would they still be able to score points? Yes. Would they be as good? Of course not. If you take either of these guys off their teams, neither one's in the position they're currently in. Boise State's not winning the Mountain West. And Colorado has not just had a 9-3 season. Neither one of those things happened. Colorado's probably close to a set. They lose the Baylor game, at the very least, it would seem. He made the play to win that game, and who knows what else. Maybe they don't pull it out against North Dakota State. I think they're probably 7-5, maybe 6-6. But Boise State has relied on Ashton Jeanty more than Colorado has relied on Travis Hunter. Remember, that Buffs defense is improved. It's been more about the defensive line. Travis Hunter is great. He is great on the defensive side of the ball, but are Colorado's defensive numbers blowing anybody away? No, they are not. And in one of the biggest games of the year where you look back and go, oh, wait, that's why Colorado didn't get into the Big 12 championship game, it was the Buffs defense, not necessarily Travis Hunter specifically, that came up short against Kansas State. Could not get a stop against a team that can't throw the football. So if you took Travis Hunter off of Colorado, that team that is left beats Boise State that doesn't have Ashton Jeanty. That's where my vote would come down to. Which guy is more important for that particular team? Because the level of greatness and what the Heisman Trophy actually, I don't want to hear direct definitions about the Heisman Trophy is this. That is not how the Heisman Trophy has been given out for a very long time. So please, spare me the dictionary definition of what the Heisman Trophy is supposed to be, or who the Heisman is supposed to be awarded to. So Jeanty's not going to win it. He should be a finalist. Cameron Skattebo at Arizona State, he should be a finalist. Those should be the three. It should be Travis Hunter. He'll win. Jeanty should finish second. And Cameron Skattebo, the guy at the center of one of the best stories in all of college football, should finish third. So Boise State wins the Mountain West for a second straight year. They're going to get a first-round bye. And yes, I think it's ridiculous. I think it is ridiculous to say that Boise State at 12-1 deserves a first round bye instead of a road playoff game when Arizona State is 11-2 going through the Big 12. And you can say this, that, and the other thing about the schedules, and well, Boise only lost to Oregon by 3. So if we're going to start adding context to games, can we talk about how Sam Leavitt was not playing in their game against Cincinnati, one of their 2 losses on the year? Are we going to talk about that? Because if we're going to get detailed, that's fine. We can add context to it, but let's add the full context. I just watched Sam Leavitt without his best wide receiver go out and throttle Iowa State. Yeah, Skattebo had a big game. I noticed Sam Leavitt was making a lot of big-time throws. I noticed Sam Leavitt was making timely plays with his legs. How important is that to an offense? I think fairly important. So when I look at where Boise State's going to fall, the question becomes whether they get the bye, which they probably will, whether they have a bye or not, how far can they advance? I think it depends on the matchup. I think it absolutely depends on the matchup. But most people, I think, are going to look at Boise State and say, oh, they can't do this, they can't do that because they play in the Mountain West. I'm arguing that's why their resume shouldn't allow for them to have a bye. I did watch them go toe-to-toe with the only team that, as I'm recording the show, hasn't lost in college football, or at least the only team that didn't lose throughout the course of the regular season, and they played them as close as anybody. Now, another team that played them close isn't even going to a bowl game in Wisconsin, but that was in Madison late in the year. Oregon was playing 8 straight games. That was their 8th. And Boise State got them in week 2 while Dylan Gabriel was not quite settled into the offense, and it was at Autzen Stadium. You make of those matchups whatever you like. But to look at Boise State and say that they are just Ashton Jeanty is to oversimplify what they have been this year. Do I believe they should have a first-round bye? No. I think we should reseed after the first round, and I don't believe anybody should get an automatic bye. Do not believe in that whatsoever, but that's where we're at. I think because of that reality, though, you will get people who will disrespect Boise State and say they can't do X, Y, and Z. Well, Ashton Jeanty's a focal point. He's not the only point. Maddox Madsen is not going to blow you away, but you'll look up and he'll make some timely plays or timely throws. Or he'll hit Cramper. Forgive me, Broncos fans. He'll hit Chris Camper when he needs to. He didn't get a ton of receiving help in that game either. There was a big drop by Stratton early in the game that would have moved the sticks for Boise on a third down situation. And the chemistry between Maddox Madsen, Ashton Jeanty, and offensive coordinator Dirk Cutter is really, really good. So that's the first thing about the offense. And defensively, schematically, they're as good as anybody in college football. They know when to dial up this pressure and that pressure. They'll get after teams. Spencer, they're playing in the Mountain West. I know. I've discussed what that should mean. It should mean they don't get to be a team that has a first-round bye. It does not mean they aren't still incredibly capable, because they are. And if you had a team with a superior defensive line to what you'd consider Mountain West competition, it would look very much like Boise State's defensive line and secondary when they're blitzing after quarterbacks. They're relentless with that pressure. So someone's going to have to figure out a way to stop it. If they wind up facing off with Arizona State, could be a fun game, but we'll just have to see how the playoff shakes out. That selection show comes on Sunday. Let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments or hit me up on X, formerly known as Twitter. Bill Bellichick to North Carolina, ridiculous. Ridiculous. And yet it could happen. Thoughts on that coming up next. First, a reminder, this episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Now that Championship Saturday, depending on when you're watching or listening to this show, is underway or over, perhaps, it's time to focus on the NFL. But if you want to bet college football playoff games, yeah, FanDuel is going to have that as well. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. $150 in bonus bets available if you win your first $5 bet. That's why you should check out America's #1 sportsbook. Not number 2, not number 3. The #1 sportsbook in America is at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So the reports have circulated widely that Bill Belichick could be, oh boy, the head coach at North Carolina. Okay, couple of thoughts here. When North Carolina announced they were moving on from Mack Brown, which is something I foresaw before the season, was not surprised when it happened, I had the immediate take of, hey, you should go opposite of what you just had, which is an older guy who was great in 2005, but hasn't actually proven to be great since then on a consistent basis. Could still be good, but is definitely not great. I advocated they go the young route. Find a guy who is a Kenny Dillingham type that injects some life, that brings some juice and moxie to your program. This could be a really good job in the ACC, but it isn't. At least it hasn't looked like it so far. So when I see reports, credibly sourced, that Bill Belichick is one of the candidates for the North Carolina job, this is different, wildly different than Jacksonville State, who won Conference USA, by the way. Jacksonville State head coach Rich Rodriguez being a candidate for the West Virginia job. That's not going back to the past and hoping you can recapture that magic. That's someone who has a past tie and is still proving capable. It is still proving that he is capable. Bill Belichick, why? What does he know about college football? How's he? Yeah, his son's a defensive coordinator at Washington. The Huskies could lose their DC, and Steve Belichick has been good schematically for the Huskies this year. They don't have the personnel all the time, so it's come back to bite them. But it's not as if he's forgotten how to call a defense there. Okay, great. Being a college head coach encompasses so much more than X's and O's, and particularly when you're the head coach, it's usually, not often, not can be, it's usually about things that are not football related. It's about making the right hires. It's about connecting with donors. It's connecting with players and college kids and recruiting and the portal. He doesn't know how to do any of that. He's never done it before. He's a big name. He's of course a big name. He's the greatest coach in the history of the NFL. I'm not disputing that. I'm not saying he wouldn't know how to scheme his defense. Why does Bill Belichick have an ability? One of the reasons I didn't like Mack Brown, by the way, is the recruiting results were trending down. Why is Bill Belichick going to be able to deliver better results in the talent acquisition department than Mack Brown was able to? They're the same guy. They are big names. They are in their 70s, and they haven't been great since 2005. Bill Belichick was great more recently than that. But he faded in the NFL. Lost his touch. No Brady, big problem. Doesn't mean it was all Brady, but it does go to show you, even with the greatest coach ever, who you have to play with matters. Do you think he's going to come in college recruiting and guys are just going to flock to North Carolina? You can make the NFL connection. Wouldn't be the first one to do that. Jed Fish is doing that at Washington successfully, might I add. Steve Belichick's been doing it. They're getting good recruits. They brought in some quality transfers that came with them from Arizona. But again, that NFL connection of, hey, I know what it takes to get there. I can help get you there. I know this coach and that coach, and I can get you looks here and there. That's great. That's fine for guys who know what it's like to be in college football. Guys of Bill Belichick's generation have been consistently run out of the sport because they don't want to handle these things. And Bill Belichick wants to, or he's going to hire a staff that wants to. Like, what's the connection going to be? How involved is he going to be in recruiting? What is it like to be recruited by Bill Belichick? Bill Belichick doesn't even know what it's like to be recruited. He hasn't done it in, I don't even know. Hold on, just a moment. I don't even remember if Bill Belichick has ever coached in college before. Colts, Lions, Broncos, Giants, Browns, Patriots, Jets, Patriots. He's never coached in college. You're going to bring in a guy who in the league that he was dominant in for 2 decades was fired because he wasn't good anymore, to a place that he's never been before. This has Herm Edwards written all over it. It's not as if Belichick's a super engaging guy. Yeah, he looks engaging on TV. We didn't forget what he's like in those press conferences. Like he's kind of a Scrooge, a curmudgeon, grumbly sort of guy. You think that's going to resonate with kids nowadays? Does North Carolina have so much NIL that I'm unaware of that they're going to be able to overcome that and say, look, you may not have a great relationship with coach, but hey, we're going to give you $500,000 to play wide receiver. So come be a North Carolina Tar Heel. These kids grew up knowing who Bill Belichick is, but they are also old enough to know what happened at the end. And I don't see that working in a positive way. Going from a guy who's trying to cling to like Rich Rodriguez doesn't feel like he's trying to recapture the magic of the past, because I'm watching him coach at Jacksonville State. They went from FCS to Conference USA, and he just won a conference championship in there. Yeah, the guy can still clearly coach. Of course he interviewed at West Virginia. There's plenty of logic to bringing him back as the head coach. There is no logic, especially after the Mack Brown experiment, which clearly failed. It wasn't a disaster, but it did not go as it was supposed to. When that didn't work out, that they would go in this direction would be really surprising to me. Really surprising to me. There are so many other coaches out there that would make more sense. I would hire Dan Mullen far before I hired Bill Belichick. Being a head coach in college football is not just about X's and O's. That's why Chip Kelly left UCLA for Ohio State. He just wanted to coach football. That is why coaches leave college to go to the NFL, because they just want to coach football. Bill Belichick, you telling me he wants to do more than just coach football? He wants to be more than an X's and O's guy? I have no idea how that would work. I don't know what that interview is looking like. I don't know what that sounds. I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know is I'm raising a red flag and saying, no, not a good. This feels Herm Edwards to Arizona State, John Gruden to the Raiders. UCLA fans will want me to say Chip Kelly to the Bruins. He at least won football games. I mean, like, he had 2 losing seasons, then he had a couple really good ones. They regressed a bit last year, and then he left to be offense coordinator. And what do you know? He didn't leave a lot behind. And by the way, Chip Kelly, Bill Belichick, they've traveled in similar circles before. Same sorts of guys that they're really all about X's and O's. They're not really big on recruiting and buddying up to donors and whatnot. You think Bill Belichick wants to go meet with North Carolina donors and talk to them about the football team? No, he doesn't even want to talk to the media about the football team. He doesn't want to talk to donors about it and be beholden to those folks. He wants to run the show. That's what he was doing in New England. He was the head coach. He was the general manager. You think he wants to suddenly go and have to disperse power to delegate it elsewhere? I just do not see that working out. So for the sake of North Carolina, I hope they go in a different direction. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.